Hey YouTube, and welcome back to the Sneaky V YouTube channel. Last time I had you guys here with me, I was getting the heads installed on my engine. Now I got this one torqued down, and I hadn't gotten this one torqued down on video, but I went ahead off video and got it done because it's exactly the same as this one. So the next thing that I'm going to do is get some of the sensors that you actually need to run an engine onto this thing. So what I have here is my coolant temperature system sensor. And what this actually does is it reads the temperature of the water or coolant that you have flowing through the engine, and it sends a signal to the computer to tell it to show you how hot or how cool your engine temperature is. It can actually allow the computer to sort of control the engine. If the engine gets too hot, the computer can actually pull power from the engine or shut the engine off completely. So this is a pretty important sensor. So the next two sensors I have here are actually knock sensors. On the Gen 3 block, these were installed in the valley right here, but this is a Gen 4 block, so they actually install on the sides here, and I'll show you guys that. Now what these guys do is that they are basically little microphones. They sit on the side of the engine and listen for detonation or knock. Knock is what happens when you have the air fuel mixture in your cylinders igniting too early, which basically creates an explosion in the cylinder instead of like a controlled flame front. Now, engines have a specific timing at which they need to fire the air fuel mixture in the cylinders. You can adjust that a little bit and have it go off either later or earlier, but you don't want it going off too early and in an uncontrolled manner, or some damage can occur. So that's what these guys do. This is my crank position sensor. If you actually go back to some of the earlier videos when I installed the crank, you can see that it has a ring around the rear of it, which this reads those rings. Mine has a 24 tooth ring, and what that ring does, or rather what this sensor and that ring does in conjunction with the computer, is that they monitor the position of the crankshaft as it rotates, and that's what allows the computer to know when to fire each cylinder, when to tell the injectors to open and close in each cylinder, and probably a few other things that I can't really call to mind right now. So this is also a pretty important sensor. This right here is my my what do you call camshaft position sensor. It reads what position the camshaft is in, and I think it works similar to the crank position, but I'm not really that sure. I'll have to look it up later. But so I'm gonna get these guys installed, as well as my valley cover here, and I'm going to attempt to install my crankshaft pulley or harmonic balancer. So since I have this one in my hand, I'll go ahead and install it. So I'm gonna turn the engine, and actually I'm gonna bring you guys down here with me to let you guys get a closer look at how I install this thing. So let's get to it. So the crankshaft position sensor actually goes into this little hole on the side of the block here, and if you could see down inside that hole, you could actually see the 24 tooth ring that this thing reads as it goes around. And basically this guy just plugs into this little hole, stick it down in there, and it just kind of snaps into place. It has a bolt that goes here that you need to put in, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that put in. Now, due to the position that it's in, I'm gonna use a little bit of thread locker on that bolt because I don't want it coming out, because once this thing gets in the car, that's gonna be a terribly hard bolt to get to. So just slide this guy in there and get it twisted into place. Now that's a 1/2 inch bolt, or it has a 1/2 inch head, so I'm gonna use a 1/2 inch socket here to get it going in. And I'll have to look up how much torque it takes to actually clamp this guy down, because I don't want to over torque it or anything. So for now, I'm just going to get it snugged into place. And that's pretty much it for the crank position sensor. Let's move on to my knock sensors here. Now, the knock sensors for a Gen 4 block also go on the side of the engine. In these little holes, there's one on either side. So they just thread in like this. And I believe they also take a 1/2 inch bolt head, a 1/2 inch socket. So let's get that guy on. I'm gonna face the connector sort of down and back, because for this build, I believe my computer is probably gonna be somewhere in the passenger compartment to keep it safe. And one on the other side. The same little hole over here. This guy twisted in. And again, I'll have to look up the torque specs for these guys so that I don't over tighten them or something. But for now, I'm just gonna get them snugged down. And last but not least is going to be my coolant temperature sensor. Now, this coolant temperature sensor can either go in the front side of the driver's side head, and because it's the exact same head on the other side, it's simply rotated around, it can go in the back side of the passenger side head. So I'm going to install it in the back side of the passenger side head here, because I want it to be as close to the firewall as I can get it, because like I said before, my computer is likely going to be in the passenger compartment of my car, and I don't want to have to run several long wires all the way from the front of the engine back. I want my wires to be, my cables and stuff to be as short as they can be, because that just makes things a lot simpler. And so I'm gonna get this guy here tightened down, and then I'm gonna move on to get my valley cover on up here at the top, and my crank pulley position again at the top. In a Gen 3 LS engine, you will have two holes right here where the knock positions would have actually gone, but this one doesn't actually have those provisions. Also, in a Gen 3 block, you would have had the crank position sensor. It would have been a lot longer than the one that I put over there, and it would have plugged down into here in about the same spot to read the ring on the crankshaft back there. But since this is a Gen 4 block, things are a little bit different. So now that I have my sensors in, let me go ahead and get this guy tightened down, and I'll get back to you guys when I go to put my valley cover on. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get the valley cover on this. Now what this guy does is basically what it says. It covers the valley. It keeps any kind of debris from getting down in there, because in this valley it actually has windows where you can kind of access your lifters here, and it's not a great place for stuff to be falling down into. So what I have here is a actually quite nice Summit Racing billet steel valley cover. Now I believe this is a Gen 3 valley cover, because it has a provision here for a Gen 3 crank position sensor, but I don't have that, so it kind of leaves a gap right here. I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be or not, but I may end up buying a new valley cover. But anyway, for the time being, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one on. This valley cover comes with a little gasket. As you can see there, I already kind of placed it on there and stuck the bolts through just to keep it all together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy installed and torque down. This is another thing where I'm not sure about the torque specifications. I'm sure it's probably 18 foot-pounds like most of the external bolts on this engine. So I'm just gonna run these down with my impact gun here. This one takes a I think this is 5mm Allen key style socket. So I'm just gonna run these on down. And I don't want to over tighten these. I don't want to over tighten anything on this engine. So I'm just gonna give them a good snug. And that's it. It's pretty simple for the valley cover. There's really nothing to the valley cover. You see all of those are snugged down. And so now comes the hard part. The next thing that I'm going to attempt to do is get my crankshaft pulley on. Like it says, the crankshaft pulley goes on the crankshaft, and it basically has to be pressed on here. Basically, you take it and line it up with your keyway here, and you press it on. But as you can see, I can't just press that on by hand. So you have to either use a tool or use the bolt to actually get it on. Now, I've tried already to use the bolt. I have the bolt right here, but it turns out that the bolt is just a little too short to actually engage with the threads in there. So the next little trick that I had is to actually heat this and get it hot enough so that it actually expands. If you've gone through any kind of schooling, any kind of middle school, high school, anything like that, you know that metal, water, actually any matter that you heat will expand. Concrete, that's why sidewalks and bridges have joints in them instead of a straight concrete pour, because when it expands and contracts, it'll crack. This is no different. You heat it up and it'll expand, and hopefully I should be able to slide it on there. So I have here a propane torch, and I'm gonna just heat this thing up real good and see if I can slide it on there. Got my welding gloves here so I don't burn myself with the hot metal, because it's gonna get pretty darn hot. And hopefully I can get the whole thing on there straight the first time without messing up anything. And so this isn't working, so I'm gonna have to try another method. Looks like I'm gonna actually have to buy the tool to actually force that on. My bolt's still not making any engagement with the threads inside of the crank, so yeah, it's just not working. So I'll have to get back to you guys some other time and see if I can get this on again later. But for now, I'm gonna end this video and say make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Send your friends my way because I can use the views. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.